Hey, listen to Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and NPR. As always, I'm Grady, and live on Skype, we got Josh.
Hey.
Let's just crack straight into it. We got NXT Halloween Havoc. We promised the results last week, and now it is time to get into those. I'm gonna leave the NXT North American Championship. We'll come on back to that one. Let's instead start with Apollo Crews, Grayson Waller. They spun the wheel, they made a deal, and they ended up in a casket match.
Yep, one of the few casket matches that doesn't involve Kane or The Undertaker.
Yeah, you see usually that is a gimmick match that's tied to those specific people.
It wasn't a bad match. I mean, it's a gimmick match. It's going to be overbooked, but yeah, I mean, it wasn't I don't think it was a bad match. I think it did what it had to do. And our expectations of Crews winning came out on top.
Yeah, that's why I threw this match here, because, other than the fact that it was a casket match, this match kind of did go as expected the whole way through. Apollo Crews getting that little bit of a bump, and Grayson Waller taking a loss, but Grayson Waller can take 100 losses and still come back. He's the Miz of NXT. And so, yeah, nothing overly shocking or crazy on that one either. Let's spin the wheel and make a deal again. Let's just put those two out at the same time. Weapons Wild match. We knew the stipulation coming through. It was going to be Cora Jade, Roxanne Perez, one-on-one. And again, pretty by the book on how we were expecting.
Yeah. It was... in the end, I think this is exactly what it needed to be. We love Cora Jade here, but I think the story was for Roxanne Perez to win here.
Yeah, it seems as though neither woman are particularly hurt by winning or losing this match. They both still look $1 million, and I still see great things coming out of both of them as we move forward. I do think that these two are the future of the women's division. At least in my mind, they're 1A, 1B kind of territory. And there's some other people floating around, but I just see a lot coming from these two. And yeah, Roxanne Perez is the flavor of right now, and she gets the win instead of Cora, but as you say, not really disappointed or surprised or anything about that.
No. I think these two women are young enough that they could potentially be the Sasha Banks-Bayley rivalry of the future.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to see it start here.
Yeah.
So that's a lot I praise, because that feud, through all its trials and tribulations, title reigns and stuff, was an amazing feud all the way through to if we end up never seeing Sasha Banks on WWE television again, through to the end.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe Jade and Perez will be the women's tag champs again later on as they have their on-again, off-again friendship and rivalry. But I see these two just being tied to each other moving forward.
Yeah.
Let's stay in the women's division. I'm just jumping around this card like crazy. NXT Women's Championship on the line. Mandy Rose, Alba Fire. Mandy Rose retained again. Again.
Yeah, it does begin to feel like that the entire show, in terms of the women, was about Roxanne Perez.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like they have built her to the point where she is going to be the one to dethrone. Whether that's a good call or not, is time will tell. But it definitely appears that that's the direction they want to go in. And I feel like this may have been a missed opportunity, because I think Alba Phi was on fire.
Mm-hmm.
Quite literally in some cases. But I feel like maybe this could have been a transitional champion or something, and they could have given Phi a moment here. Rose gets her moment by having had the title for 300 some odd days, and we can have more different feuds.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it definitely appears that they want Roxanne Perez to be the one to conquer Toxic Attraction.
Yeah, I think Mandy Rose is having her 1 year celebration coming up, which I assume will get crashed by her next challenger, as you say, probably Roxanne Perez. I agree that Alba Fire was really hot. They had her coming into this, they had people believing, they had everything going for her, and then they just don't quite commit to handing the title off. And I got a feeling that is just because, if the plans were writing down of Mandy Rose versus Roxanne Perez at NXT Deadline, I think is the next show, then, unexpectedly, Alba Fire takes off. You have to either pivot or commit. And it feels like they just sort of committed to what the plan was and didn't necessarily pivot to, as you say, some sort of transitional champion or changing up the storyline. And so, yeah, we'll have to see somebody else knock off Mandy Rose and her title reign.
And I do want to point out that kind of the story was already laid in concrete as it was to begin with, because the only reason Roxanne Perez isn't the NXT Women's Champion is because of Cora Jade.
It's true.
So then Roxanne Perez has finally vanquished Cora Jade. So that means she can now focus entirely on the NXT Women's Champion.
Mm-hmm. And let's see how that goes for her future. What else do we have here? We got a ambulance match. Damon Kemp, Julius Creed. You got your way. Julius won. Brutus Creed gets to stay on NXT. The Creed brothers are still together.
Yep. Yeah. This is going to be quite. I think this was a good match. It was a barn burner fight. Creed and Kim brought it. And I think that they're both going to be a bigger star because of this match.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe it was it wasn't, I don't think it was time to break up the Creeds. It wasn't time to bring them up. So the right call was made. The Creeds remain in NXT together. They can get back in the tag title division, have an amazing match with Pretty Deadly,
and
then we can go from there.
Yeah, well, NXT itself sort of set up our next direction because the Creed brothers, were already out here. They were doing their thing. And then the recently reunited Indus Sher attacks them. And so they've seemingly already got their next feud. Even though the NXT tag team division is running hot at the moment with, the Creeds and Indus Sher potentially feuding, Pretty Deadly just beating Malik and Idris in the title match this week on NXT as well. There's so much going on. Yeah.
They're definitely a lot stronger of a tag team division for NXT than there is for the main roster.
Mm-hmm. What other matches do we have left? Done that one. Okay, we just got the big 2 title matches by the looks. North American Championship. It was a ladder match. It featured Nathan Frazier, Von Wagner, Oro Mensah, Carmelo Hayes, and our brand new North American Champion, Wesley.
The right call. What we said last week. This was all about Wesley. This build was all about Wesley. This match was all about Wesley. Everybody got their moments to shine, including Von Wagner. Von Wagner was the Kane of the early Money in the Bank ladder matches. Big, powerful bruiser, overpowered everybody, made it seem like they were going to be the obvious winner until they eventually got buried.
Yep.
And then each guy in the match got their moments. But at the end of the day, Wesley comes out with the biggest moment of all with the title.
Yeah, I think it definitely is the right thing, as you say. We talked about it at length on the preview show. Carmelo Hayes needs to move on to new things that is not this North American Championship. And Wesley is the future of that sort of NXT mid-card. I'm sure he's going to have a bunch of amazing title defenses as he goes on with that title. Before we talk about the NXT Championship match itself, a couple of things off of NXT this week to hit up. R-Truth making an appearance and getting himself a match with Grayson Waller.
Yeah. What can we say? R-Truth is a national treasure. Anytime that he graces the television, it's just going to be pure entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
And I know he never won a world championship, but he absolutely deserves a spot in the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
Because
100%.
for 20 years, he has absolutely entertained fans in a way that nobody else could have.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing him interact with the younger guys just further puts shine on them. So yeah, I like. It was a fun segment, and it doesn't really mean much, but it was just fun, and that's part of what makes wrestling so enjoyable.
And talking about people from the main roster coming down to NXT, we got a vignette both on Halloween Havoc and on NXT the next night, showing a certain mask of a Retribution member burning in the flames as they narrate over about a second coming and their eventual return.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. Dominic Dijakovic needs a hard reset, to be honest.
The problem is he's going to go back to his old name, and I'm going to continue to struggle to pronounce.
Yeah.
Dijakovic.
Dijakovic, yes. Dominic Dijakovic. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have a problem with it, with him going back to NXT to refine himself. I just hope he doesn't stay there too long. I hope they find him a good character, something for the hard reset, work with him a little bit, and then bring him back up.
Yeah, I think it's not like he was doing much, up on the main roster with that ex-Retribution persona. So this is a nice, easy way to do it. Bring him back, as you say, reboot him, push him back up, or keep him down, whatever you end up wanting to do with the guy. I'm interested. He was one of my favorites before he went up. I think they fumbled him a little bit, and so I'm interested to see what NXT can do with him again. And then the last thing before we get onto the main event scene, we've seen Schism, Joe Gacy's little group, with the grizzled young veterans, gain another member who is definitely not a veteran, kind of, maybe, that's a bad segue. Ava Raine, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's daughter, has joined Schism.
Hey, this is definitely an interesting wrinkle. I think this is probably also going to be the best decision to debut her, because they easily could have had her just face local quote-unquote competition for a while. But I think having her work directly with Joe Gacy, who is one of the best on the mics in NXT, I think will help her directly. Because let's face it, it's one thing to do promo classes. It's another thing to do your promo in front of a live audience.
Yeah. She didn't do super bad in her little debut promo. I quite liked the bits around, like, this is the family I need, or, like, the only family I need, and stuff like that.
So, yeah, I do think that this is the best spot for her right now, because it'll give her... She's in a faction now that gets time every single week and has importance. So she'll get to talk a bit. She'll find her, so it'll gives her a chance to find herself in her character, and gives her a platform to kind of be of a safety, because if something good does go wrong, Joe Gacy can pick it back up and bring the heat back to him.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing what Schism does going forward with Ava Raine. It should be exciting. Alright, I've been teasing it, I've been promising it, we're well over halfway in fact, but we will finish off NXT Halloween Havoc. Our main event, our triple threat match for the NXT Championship, almost 25 minutes. Braun Breaker coming out on top, defeating Ilya Dragunov and JD McDonough.
Yeah, this was a fantastic triple threat match. All three talents are amazing. I did say I thought the title would change hands, but I would not be surprised if it didn't. So the fact that Braun Breaker was able to retain the title is not that big of a surprise, but it does then question who is going to be the person that takes the title off of it. That said, I do think we at least on NXT, we appear to have maybe gotten a challenge for his next opponent, being Apollo Crews. Although we won't find out that for sure until next week. Because he basically all Crews did was challenge him for the title.
Yeah.
Which, being Braun Breaker, he probably will accept unless somebody directly interferes in that acceptance. Dragunov and McDonald are not finished with each other.
Well, Ilya has gone to the hospital.
Giving us a few weeks once we get Dragunov back from quote-unquote injury. But they're definitely not done with each other.
Mm-hmm.
So the NXT, despite the fact that we've had the same champion pretty much all year long, minus a month, it still does not feel like it's an oversaturation situation. Because Braun's just been so dominant, yet in each match he's also looked like he could lose. So I think I really like Braun, and I think he's going to be a major player once he does hit the main roster. And they have done everything right in building him. But yeah, it does also gives a major question of how do you get the title off of him?
Mm-hmm. Well, we will have to wait and find out. And that is time now for us to go into our entrance theme of the week. It is Wes Lee's theme, our brand new NXT North American champion. And when we come back on the other side of the song, we will have all the Raw and SmackDown news that we can fit into about the 7 minutes that we have left in the show. And you're back with Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and MP. I'm Grady, he's Josh. Let's just start running stuff down like wild. Omos and Braun Strowman, they're on a collision course. Omos took out 4 dudes. Looking pretty strong.
Yeah, and then and this was after on SmackDown when Braun and Omos came face to face. Omos pushed Strowman down, and they announced the match for a certain event.
Mm-hmm. Which we will, I guess, discuss a lot more next week when we take a look at a set of matches that happen to be happening. That include some important ones. The Miz is continuing to have a mental breakdown. Dexter Lumis is getting to him, and yet another appearance by R-Truth.
Yep. Yep. It was a fun week for R-Truth. And honestly, this show was surrounded by Johnny Gargano. He was woven in so many different stories, and he appeared so many times during the show.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, our old friend in DIY, Tommaso Ciampa, is unfortunately injured again.
Yes, that's why we haven't been seeing him. We did wonder. It is not seemingly part of the storyline. Well, it may end up being, but it is a very legitimate injury.
I love Ciampa. Don't get me wrong. But I think he needs to retire and become a coach in NXT. Because it seems like anytime he gets any kind of traction, he gets hurt.
Yeah, it is pretty rough. I don't know what his future ends up holding for the guy, but, you just hope the best. You hope the guy can, walk and continue to live his life after wrestling. We've also got Nikki Cross returning, and injecting herself right away in the Belair versus Bayley feud. She's back and she's, just as crazy as ever.
Yeah, apparently she's revived a character from before she was even in WWE.
Okay.
Something about a galaxy. I don't know, but it was very interesting seeing this different side of Nikki Cross. And apparently they're definitely putting her in a position where she's definitely stepping up to the top dog,
Mhm.
which, but also made sure to point out she's not with Bailey.
Yeah.
Um,
It's that classic just beats up both people kind of thing.
Yeah. So she's a faction of all to herself. I'm fine with it. Nikki's always been a good talent. And if this gets her into more serious match consideration for women's titles, I'm all for it.
Yeah. Let's see what her future holds. But if we're looking at another crazy woman over on SmackDown, Liv Morgan, she's still doing her little unhinged storyline where she's just seemingly getting crazier and crazier.
Yeah, they definitely have changed her character, and they're keeping her relevant after losing the title, because prior to this character change, the title was what was keeping her relevant.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're definitely doing something with her. Whether that ends eventually with her aligning with Bray Wyatt or not, we don't know. But we definitely are seeing this S&M version of Liv Morgan.
Yeah. And it's interesting, like we've teased this sort of crazy Liv Morgan, Harley Quinn kind of character before, and sort of pulled off it. So it's interesting to see them commit to it now and go full throttle. I can't move on without talking about the Bloodline versus the Brawling Brutes. That really does look to be a feud that is heating up. You gotta love it. It's some of the greatest talents in the WWE going head to head, man. It's always good stuff. Sheamus versus Solo Sikoa was great.
Yeah, it was a fantastic match. Was it as good as Gunter? No. But it was what it needed to be to establish Sikoa.
Mm-hmm.
The beatdown afterwards was amazing. And it was just furthered the story. We injured, quote unquote, Sheamus, so we might not see him for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
But once we do, that's when War Games build.
It's got to be our War Games match, right?
Yeah, it's got to be. I don't know who they're going to get to join the Brawling Brutes for this War Games match. Probably will default to Drew McIntyre, in all honesty. But it's going to be a great match. Also, speaking of the Bloodline, we kind of do need to talk, at least for a few seconds, about Roman Reigns' opponent at this mysterious event that's happening next week.
Yeah, the event coming up. Because that again, it had the through line from the start of the show to the end of the show. It was the Bloodline. They have their match with Sheamus, and then there's a couple segments in the middle where Sami Zayn's trying to, peacekeep with Jey Uso, and then we end the show, obviously, with Jey Uso failing to beat up Logan Paul.
The promo Logan had was really good, and it also brought up a really important question that this whole feud should be built around. Nobody expects Logan to win. What happens if he actually does?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but it would be something interesting.
What happens? I don't know.
I don't know, but it's a great thing to think about for this entire feud. What happens if Logan somehow does it?
Yeah, I think the whole point when anybody is challenging Roman Reigns at this point is just to try and put doubt into the viewers' minds. Because everybody's default position is obviously going to be Roman Reigns wins, he defends his title one more, and he goes on to the next challenger. And so all you have to do as a challenger is make people believe. People have to believe that there is a chance you are going to take out the head of the table. Not necessarily that you're going to win the titles or anything, just that you can beat Roman Reigns, because he is that final boss. He is that guy that nobody's been able to put down. And so, yeah, if that's what Logan's job is here, right? Come out, cut a promo, make people believe, make people start questioning their automatic assumption, and then, yeah, you're going to be golden.
Yep. The last person to beat Roman Reigns one-on-one was, in fact, Baron Corbin, who has got a new character along with the manager, which we haven't really talked about.
That's true. We probably just got enough time to squeeze it in. Baron Corbin, JBL, We talked about it being a possibility when he got pulled away in the limo, and now it is what we are going ahead with.
Yep. I think it's brilliant. Like him or hate him, JBL is one of the best heels that have been in the business ever.
Mm-hmm.
He knows how to push people's buttons and get people to hate people. So having him as a mouthpiece for Baron Corbin, who is no slouch on the stick, is just going to elevate and enhance his heel character.
Yeah, I think it should be good for Baron, and we'll have to see what the future holds for him. But we have run out of time for this week. It's been great talking to you.
Bye,
You can visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/Wrestling R&D Up, or our Twitter page, twitter.com/Wrestling R&D Up, or our YouTube page, youtube.com/Wrestling RND Up, and we will catch you next week.